Introduction to Microeconomics. Utility, Ordinal, Cardinal, and Marginal Utility. Utility. Utility is a concept in economics that refers to the satisfaction or usefulness that a consumer derives from a good or service. It is a measure of the value that a consumer places on a particular product or service. Utility can be thought of as the happiness or well-being that a consumer experiences as a result of consuming a good or service. Utility can be measured in various ways, such as ordinal utility or cardinal utility. Ordinal utility is a measure of the relative preference that a consumer has for different goods and services, whereas cardinal utility assigns a numerical value to each bundle of goods and services that a consumer may consume. Utility can also be classified as total utility and marginal utility. Total utility is the total satisfaction that a consumer receives from consuming a good or service, while marginal utility is the additional satisfaction that a consumer receives from consuming one more unit of a good or service. In microeconomics, the concept of utility is used to understand consumer behavior and how they make choices. The law of diminishing marginal utility states that as the consumption of a good or service increases, the marginal utility derived from consuming each additional unit of the good or service will decrease. This principle is used to explain why the demand for a good or service typically decreases as the price of the good or service increases. In conclusion, utility is a concept in economics that refers to the satisfaction or usefulness that a consumer derives from a good or service. It is a measure of the value that a consumer places on a particular product or service and is used to understand consumer behavior and how they make choices. Cardinal utility. Cardinal utility is a concept in economics that refers to the numerical measurement of utility, or satisfaction, that a consumer derives from a good or service. It is based on the idea that utility can be quantified and compared. Ordinal utility. Ordinal utility is a concept in economics that refers to the relative preference that a consumer has for different goods and services. Unlike cardinal utility, which assigns a numerical value to each bundle of goods and services that a consumer may consume, ordinal utility simply ranks the different goods and services in terms of the consumer's preference for them. One of the key assumptions of ordinal utility is that consumers have consistent and transitive preferences. This means that if a consumer prefers good A to good B, and good B to good C, then they must also prefer good A to good C. Additionally, ordinal utility assumes that the consumer's preferences are independent of the units used to measure them. In the theory of demand, we assume that people maximize their utility, which means that they choose the bundle of consumption goods that they most prefer. Marginal utility. How does utility apply to the theory of demand? Say that consuming the first unit of ice cream gives you a certain level of satisfaction or utility. Now imagine consuming a second unit. Your total utility goes up because the second unit of the good gives you some additional utility. What about adding a third and fourth unit of the same good? Eventually, if you eat enough ice cream, instead of adding to your satisfaction or utility, it makes you sick. This leads us to the fundamental economic concept of marginal utility. When you eat an additional unit of ice cream, you will get some additional satisfaction or utility. The increment to your utility is called marginal utility. The expression marginal is a key term in economics and always means additional or extra. Marginal utility denotes the additional utility you get from the consumption of an additional unit of a commodity. One of the fundamental ideas behind demand theory is the law of diminishing marginal utility. This law states that the amount of extra or marginal utility declines as a person consumes more and more of a good. Thanks for watching.